we fight harder not to lose something than we do to gain something. And everyone said, no,
Oh,
that's a book.
yes. Welcome again to ASCC Overflowing Buckets, where people give freely from their overflowing buckets to fill others up. So today we're chatting with Paul Roberts, the mastermind behind MVP X Team. From insurance to real estate, Paul's built a powerhouse. Everyone, Paul Roberts.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So there's a million questions that we want to ask. So let's just start with this one and let's just see where this conversation goes. So you were in insurance, you built a large, we're going to call it an organization in insurance, and it appeared really successful. Yet you wanted to get out. Can you kind of take us on that journey? Because I feel like there's amazing lessons available if you're open to sharing those lessons with us so that we don't have to repeat those. There's some good lessons and some valuable lessons that if we can not have to repeat, we'd just be so incredibly grateful.
I was blessed. I was able to sell my insurance company to an incredible company that bought me. And never in a million years, Bettina, did I build that company to one day sell it. But that's what happened. And that was amazing. And
God graces us in so many ways. If we could have planned it, we might not have given us so much, because, you know, sometimes I don't think we think we're worthy of those many blessings, but God's like, I got you.
Yes. Yeah. Calm down, relax. I got you. So that's the best way to sum it up. I got into that business, Bettina, because I knew I could build something special.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went hardcore, and I knew I was going to build something great. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I knew I wanted to build a community of people that wanted to win. I wanted to build a community of people that had bumps and bruises. I was looking for the messed up, if you will. I'm a jacked up mess. I know it. And so I'm always looking for people that maybe they're jacked up messes, but they got a big, crazy dream, right?
Yeah.
I got that from my mother. I watched her do incredible things in life. I got a PhD in life from her. I did not go to college, but she gave me a PhD just watching her.
What did your mother do? What was her thing?
So she very boldly left the marriage of my father. It was not a good marriage, and she should have left. This is back in the 70s when most of the women that were around her were telling her, "You're crazy. Don't leave him. You need to be taken care of. You know, da 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 da." And she was bold, and she said, "No, I'm not living this way. My kids aren't going to see me live this way." So she went out. She set out to get a college degree and graduate with magna cum laude, and then went on to get another degree and then another degree. And she opened a private practice as a psychologist.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. And crazy enough, Bettina, to this day, I can still hear her crying in the other room. We lived in a very small house. I can still hear her crying, you know, wondering if she'd made the right decisions. I can still hear the typewriter. That's back in the typewriter days when she was typing her thesis and all that stuff. Yeah. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow. So when you think about her, one, she was crying, and two, she was still typing away, clack, clack, clacking. Because that was when I visited my grandmother and I had to write a school paper, right? When I stayed with her, there was a lot of clack, clack, clacking. So curious. Nope. So curious on that. That is somebody who's like in the hole. You don't see it, but you're hearing them in the hole and fighting to get out of that hole all at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
Like what a beautiful example of how to fight.
Yes.
Maybe not fight. Maybe fight isn't the word, but
no, fight's perfect. I've said those exact words. It is fight. Fight is 100% perfect. That's what she was doing. She was fighting for her future, for our future. I knew we weren't paying the bills. The bill collectors were calling. This is back when you had a phone that everybody answered, so she couldn't hide that from us.
Right.
But she fought, she fought like hell, and like I said, she was always confused as to why I wasn't good in college because she never got bad grades, and I couldn't get a. I mean, if I got a D, I would celebrate, and so she was always confused by that. But she fought hard for us, and I've always told her, "You gave me a PhD in life by just watching you not quit."
I believe in genetics, right? My dad is the one, he's like, "Hey, breeding is important, choose well." Right? Um, he loves one. I was like, "Yeah." So I have a lot of ADD, right? So do you
Yeah.
think that maybe like since she was favored in college, you might take after your father?
No, he did well too.
He did well too in
Yeah, he did well.
college?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
why didn't we do well in college? It's because that wasn't our destiny. Like my dad, when my family told me, my extended family told me I needed to go to college, my dad said, "You don't need to go to college. You need
Yeah.
to like you need to figure it out. You'll do well, but college isn't the road for you." And I tried it, and I'm so glad I did because I partied my way through college and I got an education that I a different kind of education that I would not have gotten and would not
Yeah,
have received. It wasn't necessarily in the classroom,
yeah.
although I made the mistake. I tested in to do like aeronautical engineering.
Oh,
I
wow.
wasn't studious,
Yeah.
right? So, but that is a sidetracked point. So you watched your mother
Yes.
and you learned the lesson on how to get like the attitude, the energy, what was needed to get out of a hole,
Yeah.
no matter what your emotions may be.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
100%. So when I went broke and we lost everything, I knew everything was gonna be fine. I watched my mom dig out.
mhm.
I was gonna dig out of it, and that was my mentality when I started my last business was just, "I'm gonna build something beautiful here. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but it's gonna be amazing." And ironically, later in life, because my mom would come watch me speak from stage, and she would meet me on the side with tears in her eyes, and she would say, you kind of became a psychologist. It's kind of weird. You kind of followed me after all with everything that you're doing and the people that you're coaching and mentoring,
Yeah.
and you became that person. Just didn't. I don't have the college degree to prove it.
But you have the success and the love that other people, the appreciation of others, which is,
Yeah,
uh, I think that's probably more important. I don't know if this
I
is true, but
agree.
one of the things that I've heard people say is people that go into like a therapy degree, a lot of it isn't that they're looking to do this for others, they're looking to self-discover.
There is, and we could talk about that for hours. I could tell you stories about my mother and how she finally closed her private practice. I'm not going to tell you why, but it's pretty much what you're saying. It's kind of interesting, and but nonetheless, I'm just super proud of her, and I was raised by her. I had all women around me, and then lo and behold, I had a family and have two girls, and got all women
Right.
around me again. So it was definitely destined.
So when
Uh,
you started your insurance, do you start your insurance after you went broke?
so I had a pretty good career. I was a headhunter slash recruiter, whatever you want to call us. And I did fairly well. And when I left that gig, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start my own business. I started a business that I should not have started, and we went broke fast.
What was
And
the
then
greatest lesson in that business? Like it like because hindsight, like
yeah,
I can like sideline coach like nobody's business. Well, you
yeah,
should have done that. You should have done that. What is it like you should have seen, but you
I needed
didn't
it
acknowledge?
100%. I needed a team. I went into that individual by myself, had zero team support, nothing. And then when I moved into insurance and I found this incredible team to partner with great people, I found this couple. I call them a young couple. They were younger than me at the time, still are, of course, but just incredible young couple that took me in and just taught me so much about that business and that team. That it was the team that lifted me up. It was the team. Had I had a team in the business prior to that, I'd have probably succeeded. Um, I don't regret any of it because I learned from it. But at the same time, Bettina, if there was no team, there's zero. There
Right.
was no Bettina.
So, thank you. I love that we get to partner together. So it was about you didn't have relationships in
Correct.
that previous business.
Yeah.
What kept you from building those relationships? Would you say they were unavailable or were you not reaching out to create those relationships? What
Yeah.
was it?
In that business, they were unavailable. You were on your own. You were on your own island, and you were meant to build from scratch.
That is crazy. I like to me that blows my mind
Yeah.
because I can't imagine like going through life without relationships. Even if you do become successful, it's a lonely, non-joyful path. I think there's so much value in finding your people. And a
Oh,
lot of times the person that you think you join, right? They were
mhm,
perfect for that season. And then
mhm.
you're going to meet somebody else who's perfect for that next season, meet somebody else which is perfect for that next season, which
Yeah.
I think I love that we're in this season together,
Yes.
right? And our paths are crossing here, but I think it's like a web. We'll just
Yeah.
keep going like this. So, so in the next one, you had relationships. Did that relationship introduce you to other relationships, or do you think that was very just like one, like one a highway fast
Yeah.
road, or do you think it was like a web of relationships?
Hunter, that one relationship with that young couple, they introduced me to everybody, and
Yeah.
they didn't hold back at all. Not only did they not hold back in having me meet other people on the team, but they also stressed the importance of my individuality and me being me and using my strengths to join the team and not try to conform and be anybody else. They said, no, we don't want you to come here to be anybody else. We want you to, conform in the fact of, hey, we are the team.
Right.
This is our team. And so I conformed in regards to that, but they stressed, hey, we're different, and the guy that brought me in, Fitz, is his name. We were different. He is very much he's way more organized than I am, for sure. Uh, I
We
always
already
admire.
see they don't need anybody else who's more organized. They already had they're like,
Yeah,
Paul, don't try to be organized. And we already have organized. We need crazy.
yeah,
Can
and
can you be a little crazy? And you're like, oh, yeah, I'll
yeah,
go run. I'll run. I'll run faster like a rhino through any door, like through a wall. I got this, right? Was that you? I'm just
that
curious.
was no, it was 100%, and they allowed me to be that person. And I say they because it's a couple. They were married, and it was such a blessing for me to have. And they were younger than me, and thank God I was put in a place to where I was humbled, and I didn't think, well, you're younger than me, you don't know what you're doing. Da, 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 da. I was just like, hey, you're you know what you're doing, and
Do you
God
think
humbled me to listen to them.
do you think you were humbled? So was that humbling in that previous failure? Is that when it happened?
There was probably a lot of that, but I think, watching my mother, she humbled herself, because
Yeah.
she went back to college later in life with a bunch of young people.
Yeah. I think
And
it's interesting how God, um, if you're not willing to humble yourself,
yeah,
right? Because you
right,
don't realize you need it, it's all
right,
right. He's got you, right?
right. Yeah,
like like it feels good and terrifying all at the same time, isn't it?
yeah, for sure.
All right. So they not just allowed you, but it sounds like they encourage you to fill in another space that
Yes.
they weren't able to fill themselves.
Yeah, they were very, very much so. And they allowed me to, in a very short order, to help them with their sales meeting. They had a very successful sales meeting already. And they said, hey, you're really getting into reading all these books that we're telling you to read. Can you get up and train on it for 15 minutes? And I mean, they just welcomed me in. They took my hunger and said, here, let's find a place for it. And they put me here and they said, here. And so they would give me like the first 5 to 10, 15 minutes of their sales meeting. And it was a 2-hour sales meeting. It was a very important sales meeting. It was a huge honor. And then before my group got so big, I was running half the sales meeting. Fitz was running half the sales meeting, and he didn't have to do that. He could have said, "Hey, this is my office. This is my team. This is my." He didn't do that. He instead allowed me to be part of it and use my hunger.
I'm gonna guess that you earned that trust. Right? You earned that. That's not something that comes to everybody. Like, he didn't just do it as a favor. Like, you earned it. You read the
Yeah,
books, you did the work, da, 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 so that when you built, he was building a leader in you
yeah,
and modeling that behavior in you. So when you went off and you built your own organization within Fitz's organization, right? So you didn't go off on your own first. You built it within the organization first
yeah,
and got to truly understand and I guess leverage what
yeah,
was already there.
yeah,
And
for
then when
sure.
you went on your own, which which lessons did you take with you that you think were the most valuable lessons?
So, just allowing people to be themselves. Like I said, I came to Fitz very hungry, very enthusiastic, wanting to read all the books he told me to read. And so I would just acknowledge, I would see that in other people, and I'd say, okay, you have a spot here. But I'd always tell Fitz where I was going, what I was doing. I'd say, this is going to work. I'd joke with him, this is going to work. Like, I'm going to get rich, and I'd just come with him with such enthusiasm and excitement. And, we spent 18 years together, not almost, well, actually 19 years together. Now, with every leader, you want to do it better, and Fitz loved that. That didn't scare him. He
Right.
wanted me to go and do my own sales meeting and do it better and do it my own way and be me. And then of course I would find some Fitzes that would join the organization that would keep me organized, that I would drive nuts. So it's just the way it works. And so I was useless without that team. And my goal when I joined Fitz's team was to be the biggest team inside of Fitz's team.
Uh-huh.
And we would always joke about when the sales meeting got so big, he'd kick you out. He'd say, "Okay, you've graduated. Go do your own sales meeting. Get your own office. Do your own thing."
Mhm.
That was a huge honor for him to say, "Hey, it's time for you to move on and get your own
So,
office."
that's interesting. So you wanted so the thing that our mentor taught us is like, he said, "My goal for you is to build an organization that's bigger than mine."
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
yes, we're in the same organization, but we have the opportunity to build something bigger than me. Like, go do it bigger, better, greater. So, like, we were talking about like different people with different skill sets, right? You've got
Right.
yours, you've got Fits, and I look at it as like a wheel, right? And so we're looking for different people to hold different spokes, have different strengths, because the strengths are like the spokes. And if you're just one spoke, it's not going to be very secure. The more spokes you have, the more strengths you have, the smoother the ride,
Right.
right? And what I love is that we can pull people, right, from anywhere. And all of those are merely just relationships. So those folks are relationships with strengths. Like, you have your strength, I have my strength. Daniel, Nicole, Brittany, Levi, Connor, everybody's just got their own strengths.
Hmm.
They're just beautiful. And we bring it all together and we help and support and love one another. So right now you went from insurance to real estate here at EXP. How do you feel like that kind of building from the insurance platform transitions um to real estate? Like the things that transfer, and then also the things that might need to be done differently. Also, I might be ADD, Paul. I have like a million questions. The other thing I want to know is, like, what lessons have you learned in the past that you want to make sure you don't bring here, right?
Yeah. Right.
And what lessons in the past that you learned that you for sure want to make sure you bring to your next venture
Yeah.
so that it
Yeah.
remains fun and joyful?
Yeah. Everything that transferred, it's all the same. It's people. Insurance person, real estate person, it's all the same. Building an organization, building a community that respects one another, building a community that strives for excellence, building a community that believes that we can be powerful and loving. building a community that is friendly, easy to talk to, spirit of gratitude. It's the same. Those are, it doesn't matter which you're in, insurance or real estate. It's all the same.
Right.
And then on the surface, people are the same. We all deal with insecurities. We all deal with self-image, self-worth. And the more we can work on our self-image, self-worth, the stronger the team can be, the more productive the community can be if we work on ourselves. And so in building this community versus, the insurance community, it's the same. I'm looking for people that want to be part of something, and everybody does.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what, and you've got to have room for everybody to belong. Not everybody, but you got to have room for people to belong.
Yeah.
You got to have room for people to grow. My pastor always says something I love. He goes, "You don't have to come here, you know, good. We're going to help you with that. You don't have to come here great. We're going to help you with that." He says it much more eloquently than I just did, but it's the same. It's the same here. And so I love working with people and understanding. I understand. I know their self image is jacked up. Most of us are, and in different areas. Some areas where our self image, our self worth, we're powerful. We got it, but we're lacking in other areas.
So
And
it's
if we
not
can,
necessarily how you show up or why you show up. The key is that you show up.
yeah, you show up, and if you come and you thirst for you have excitement and enthusiasm to make a change in your life, to do something different, to be part of something greater, then man, we can work with that, and it's so much fun. And I mean, both they're the same in that regard.
Yeah.
You got the same, dinosaurs in insurance who say the dumbest things, like, I remember when I first got into insurance, they'd say, "I've got underwear older than you. I've been in this business longer than you." And I'm
Little
like, "Well,
hey,
yeah,
there's still those old school people that say that here in real estate. And I
that's what I'm
try
saying.
really
No,
hard not to say I've been doing real
yeah,
estate for like 20 decades, like for almost
yeah,
2 decades. All
yeah,
it's taught me for doing real estate for almost 2 decades is that I just don't know anything.
yeah,
As
yeah.
soon
And
as I
so I mean,
think I know something, I think like somebody asked, how long, like at what point in real estate do you become like an expert and you feel like an expert? And I said,
never.
oh, about 25 transactions. That's when that
Mhm.
happens. But when you hit about 100, then it flips. And then you're back to just recognizing you don't know anything anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So I
And
mean,
it stays that way.
yeah, you got dinosaurs in both, is what I was saying. You got, it's the same. You got the same mentality. I really I'm striving hard to. We're going to be, EXP is the disruptor, no doubt. And
Absolutely.
I want our team to be the disruptor. I'm looking for folks that are, 30 years and younger, that want to come in here with a can-do attitude of, let's take over the world, let's learn. Let's ignore all the BS coming from the people that have been here for a couple of decades and act like we don't belong. Because there's enough people here that act like we belong. Like my mentor, she's been in the business 20 years. She doesn't treat she's not dinosaur. She don't treat me that way. She loves on me. She edifies me. And so, there's so many inside of our organization that are not old school, that when I can bring that younger group in, that younger hungry crowd, they can learn from people like you that have 2 decades of experience but are still humble enough to know that. So it's the same in that regard, and it's fun. There's the mechanics change a little bit in terms of, a transaction versus a sell. I love this industry because of the relationship takes so much longer. In insurance, it's a little quicker. When you're
I
writing
love
annuity,
that. Some people,
yeah,
it's like some people are like that is just a testament, I think, of the maturity that you have, right? Because
yeah,
it is
maybe,
completely different. Like,
yeah,
because it does take a maturity to understand that this is a long-term journey,
yeah,
right?
and it is,
And
yeah,
and just escrow is on average, I think I looked the other day, it was like 42, 48 days escrow on average is an average
mhm,
escrow. I'm like, that's a long time. I'm thinking that new construction skews it. But
yeah,
then the relationship between when you first meet somebody to when they actually like go under contract,
yeah,
right? Is months. It used to be, I think the average was maybe 4 months. I think now they're like 9 months. It's
Yeah.
grown.
Yeah. That's crazy. But
That's a
yeah, so I
long
mean, I
term.
love the longer term, because when I sold the $85 a month final expense insurance policy you signed, and, I stayed in touch with you, but not, nothing that big. So I like this process of hanging out with my customers a little longer, getting to know them. The referrals are much stronger over here than they are in insurance.
Yes.
Annuities, when you're doing annuities, those are a little bit more longer, and I like those relationships on the insurance side when it comes to annuities. But when it comes to real estate, I love every aspect of it because of the fact it does take long and you get to know people. Our
Yeah.
motto is everyone has a story, and I want to get to know your story. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is to take the time to learn about somebody.
Yeah.
It'll do so many things for you. If nothing else, this is the one thing it'll do for you that you need to do it for, is you'll realize you're not as jacked up as you think you are. Everybody else is jacked up. And so once you take the time to get to know people on a deeper level, okay, my life ain't that bad, you know?
Well, yeah, my dad would say, "You're not that special."
Yeah,
Right?
amen.
You're just not that special.
Yeah, it's a fine line, and that's funny. I'd like to meet your dad. I would always tell people, listen, you're not special. I want you to understand you're special, but you're not that special.
Right.
Okay,
But the
and
relief, the
yeah,
pressure
yes,
that
yes,
releases when we
yes,
think when we think other people have such high regards of us,
yeah,
that's only our ego speaking. And it's funny, so I was listening to this morning to Brendan, and he's talking about jealousy this morning,
uh-huh,
right?
mhm,
That is like that's what jealousy is. It's where we're just putting ourselves, our egos first, and we think
yeah,
about all the challenges. We look in hindsight of all the challenges that maybe this isn't true for you, but true for me, right? All the
yeah,
challenges that I've had in my past. There's probably some kind of ego base or pride base,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
And if I would go back and revisit and remove the ego drive or the pride drive that led to that next first decision,
yeah,
how things would be different.
yep,
The joy and the fun to the success would have just exploded.
yeah,
That's why it took a few years. I mean, my husband just recognizes and I just really like I have so much more growth,
yeah,
but that was a huge growth for me. Was
yeah,
like, "Dang, it ain't about me."
and that's the
And
beauty of getting
nobody
to know.
cares, and it's such a
Yeah,
release. Whew.
yeah, and that's the beauty of getting to know other people, is you realize. And I don't mean to be shallow by saying, hey, everybody's jacked up more than you. But what I'm saying is, when you take the time to sit down, you're like, okay, they've been through stuff I've been through. Okay.
Yes.
They've been through, like I can't wait. And this day hasn't happened, but I can't wait to have a one-on-one talk with Gene Frederick, and I will one day.
Yes.
And I look for, like, I've heard the story of, he sold 7 deals and he came big at EXP. What I can't wait to sit down and talk with him about is, tell me about the sleepless nights. Tell me about, oh my God, what have I done? Tell me about, you woke up and your pillow was sweaty because you were freaking out. Like, what have I done? I just sold my entire everything I built. I mean, I know there was fear there, and it's stories like that that I love to hear, because one, you start to say, okay, I'm normal. It's okay. It's okay that I'm scared, because you look at someone like Gene and you're thinking he was never fearful. Oh, he was. And but he doesn't appear to be. We see
Right.
the stage. I see the stage, Gene.
Yes.
And that's what we tend to do, is we put our leaders and our people that we look up to on these stages and pedestals. And when you get to know them, you're like, oh crap, okay. One of the first things I did when I quit drinking alcohol, because I'm a recovered alcoholic, is I wanted to read books about people that had gone through it. I picked rock and roll. So I read Slash's book from Guns N' Roses. I read
Mm,
Anthony Kiedis' book from Red Hot Chili Peppers. I learned about James Hetfield from Metallica, because to me it was like, okay, here's these guys that are bigger than life. Like Anthony Kiedis was singing to 113,000 people in Mexico City, and just 5 days later he was thinking about ending everything. You know what I'm saying? So you're like, okay, that puts my problems into perspective, but it also puts him into his balloon, his world as well.
yeah.
Paul Roberts and Anthony Kiedis were fighting the same battle. you know? And just, he's singing to 113,000 people. I'm not,
Mhm.
but he's struggling the same struggle I am. And it gives you comfort. You're like, okay. So when we hear, great stories here at EXP of people that have struggled, that have battled,
Yeah.
you're reaching and you're touching people on a level of, oh, okay, take a deep breath. I'm going to be okay. That's kind of like what my mom did to me, Bettina.
Yeah.
Every time things got bad, we end up losing our house to foreclosure, but every time things got bad, it was like, take a deep breath. I watched my mom go through this. I've seen Fitz went through it, by the way. I learned that from Fitz. And so
Mhm.
I learned it from so many people, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what learning about other people's stories does for you. It just
Yes.
says, "Hey, we're all struggling. We're all jacked up messes." And the one that acts like he's not, or she acts like she's not, probably the most jacked up person there.
So,
And
what's really cool? So, our friend and currently our coach, he's agreed to coach me, is Wayne Solomons. He wrote this great book. I believe it's called The Art of Getting Back Up,
yeah, I like
like the
that.
art to that. It's a great, easy read. It's a
Yeah,
how to get back up.
yeah,
Uh,
that's nice.
he's got a great story. It's
Yeah,
a great story. That didn't end in complete tragedy, but
I
it's
like.
those journeys that we go on, right?
Yes. Yeah, and it is, and so that's what I love about, it's the same. I'm working with people here. I'm meeting so many incredible people here at EXP. God just took. It's like God picked me up out of, hey, this is over. This part of your career is over. You sold your company.
Mhm.
Um, Now it's time to pick you up, and I'm gonna put you over here.
Something happened in between. So I feel like there's a valuable lesson I don't wanna look over. You
Yeah,
got into this building, your
mhm,
organization in insurance with the intent of this being your forever business.
yeah,
But something happened where it causes that shift to where you sold it. And
yeah,
I'm gonna guess, like, there's a lesson in there that I don't want us to miss out on.
yeah. It wasn't the shift of me having. I didn't have to sell it. It was just, I
Not
was
saying you
fortunate.
did, but,
Huh?
like, there's a lesson in there. What's the lesson?
The lesson is, well, let me say this. I was, when I got bought, I mean, it was a glorious day. I know all the people that were there. We celebrated.
Yeah,
The company that bought me put me on their private jet and flew me to Florida, and they videoed us, and those videos I still have, and they're etched into memory, and I love it. And they made me feel like a king. I kind of thought, this is it. I found this is it. I loved, loved, loved the owner of the company that bought me. He's an
yeah,
incredible man. I got really attached to him. I was like, this is it.
yeah.
And it was like, God was like, no, it's not. It's not it. And so when the writing was on the wall that that wasn't it, luckily
Mhm.
I had built such great relationships inside this company. I said, hey guys, it's time for me to go on.
Yeah.
And they were great. They said, yes, it's okay. We shook hands. And I think the lesson to learn is, just because you have everything structured and planned out in your life, it can turn around on you.
Mhm.
I think God had something much bigger for me when he introduced me to Daniel. Well, first he introduced me to Colin,
Yeah,
and then Colin introduced me to Calvin and Daniel.
yeah.
And I'm sitting there in their office, and I just listening to him, very humble man, no ego at all, zero.
Which
Which is
allowed
hard.
you to be open.
Yeah, allowed me to be everything. And I was like, man, I found a home. And so the lesson really is, we think it needs to be a certain way, and then something's going to come along and change that. And here I am, 54, starting
Mhm.
in a new industry. How am I going to be perceived? How am I going to be treated?
Mm.
Am I going to feel like I belong?
Yeah.
So about a week later, Daniel invited us to a meeting he was having at his office. And Bettina, I got to tell you, man, that was a God thing.
Yeah.
Everybody was just so, hey, how you doing? Hugging me. And I'm like, I don't know who you people are. This is great. And
I think you thought the same thing when you met me. You're like, "You're a lot."
I'm a hugger, and I need to get to when I met you and Juan, by the way. But I'm a hugger, and I was like, "Yeah, this is great, man." And I just drove home. I hope I was going the speed limit. I don't know if I was, but I was kind of like, "All right, God, you got me here. You know,
Yeah.
this is where I need to be. I am starting over. That is scary. It's scary as hell to go from having walking up on stage and a couple of thousand people knowing who you are to walking into a room and 30 people don't know you exist. It's
Mhm.
scary.
Mhm.
And I was a little bit apprehensive as I was walking into that room, but when everybody was hugging me and welcoming me and saying, "We're so glad you're here. Daniel's told us so much great things about you." And I'm like, "Daniel's only known me for a week. This is incredible." Like Daniel
Oh,
did the research on the internet about my purchase and who I got bought by. And I mean, he
I
did
love
all that.
Daniel. Uncle
So
Daniel.
he told all these people great things about me, and I was like, "Wow, this is phenomenal." So I drove home that day. Again, I might have been going 35 miles an hour down the George Bush, but I was like, I found a home, and I get here, and Daniel starts introducing me to people. We went to Cabo,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
he
Yes.
literally he introduced me to everybody. He took his time to introduce me to Brent Gove, to
Great
Gene,
guy. Mhm.
um, Super Dave. He introduced me to Tracy. He introduced to so many people, and he took his time to introduce me to everybody.
And Tracy
And
Gagnon, yeah.
yeah, and he just kept introducing me, and the things he was saying about me, Bettina, I was like, wow. I thought I was leaving and losing something.
Mm.
And God was really giving me something to gain, you know?
Yeah.
And that's tough. We fight harder not to lose something than we do to gain something. And everyone say, "No,
Oh,
it's me." I said, "Nope, that's
yes.
everybody. It's everyone." Because
So
we hate change. And so thankfully, God was like, "No, I got something over here for you." And then
yeah.
I remember the night I met you and Juan. I mean, Juan and I, within minutes, he didn't even know who I was. We were talking about Think and Grow Rich, so many great books. And he didn't know that I was a book reader, I don't think. And then I met you, and you said, I forget what you said to me, like, "How long you been here?" And I said, "I'm brand new." And you go, "You're not new." I said, "No, I'm like, really, I'm brand new." You go, "You are not new." Like you were in my face. "You are not new." I said, "I swear I'm new." And she goes, "I understand you're saying you're new, but you're not new. You've done something." And I'm like, wow, okay. It's again a God sign of here you go. So it's been a blessing. Now it's my turn. Now I got to do something. I get really I get motivated and real nervous when people talk good about me because I'm like going, "Oh man, I'm not that good. I gotta get better. I gotta get better." So
Yeah.
anytime Daniel brags about me on our morning call or whatever it is, I'm like, "Man, I'm not doing enough. I got to get 100 people on my team like tomorrow." Fitz knew that about me. Fitz knew how to motivate me because he knew that yelling and screaming at me wasn't gonna work. If he told everybody I was better than I was, he knew I'd get to that level because I couldn't
Right,
stand. I didn't want him to be a liar. I'm like, I got to get to that
right.
level.
Well,
He's acting
also, like, I what kind of people do you want in your life? Do you want the type of people that you have to yell and scream at, or do you
like,
want the type of people that wanna level up because that's who they are? So that's
yeah,
who you wanna treat people the way, you'll attract those kind of people, and
yeah.
I see that. I love the relationships that we built, right? And
That's everything.
I love the experience that you brought with you.
Thank you.
Right? Like, I the moment I met you, I knew you were just new to driving this vehicle, but you
Yeah,
knew how to drive a race car,
yeah. Thank you.
right?
Yeah,
It wasn't that you were new to driving. You knew how to drive. This was just a different vehicle, and I was like, "Hmm, he's testing out a new race car." Right? Like, this guy knows how to drive. I can you know how you can just tell when somebody really knows how to drive a race car and they know how to go fast and they know how to win, and that's you. You knew that. When you see that in somebody, you know it.
yeah,
You
thank you.
and there's those people you see potential in, and then there's those people that you've like, "Oh, they've done this." And you have the, "Oh, you've done this look." And what I love is that you've done it, and
Yeah.
you're just as excited, right? By
Yeah.
driving this new vehicle
Oh,
and running
yeah.
this race. And
Yes.
it's contagious, it's electrifying, and
Yeah.
so joyful. So
Thank
I'm honored to be able to be on this journey with you.
thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm useless without everybody, that's for sure. And I am very I'm excited. I wake up, I learn something new every day. We got an offer on a house that we did this weekend, and they put something in the offer that I didn't understand, and I was like, okay. So I went and asked TC, and TC goes, "That's that." I go, now I know. Now I know
Now
what
you
that
know.
means. Now I
Hey,
know.
half the
And
time I'm at ask AI. You'll be amazed what you can find in AI. I know that sounds weird, but I'm
yeah,
loving what I'm discovering in AI nowadays. Like boom, boom, boom. Just to
yeah,
have it's getting I use it. I started in January. I hired an AI coach in January. Phil Stringer was the AI coach that we hired in January. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal course. He's built a community. It was one of the best AI investments that I made. Yes, um, now in hindsight, I know that a lot of it I can learn in
yeah,
AI, but there's something about having that humanness in it. You
yeah.
can't I need that humanness, and it really taught me how to have the right mindset around using AI. So I'm just throwing that out there
Cool.
for our friend Phil Stringer. He's out of North Carolina. Great guy, great human. Love the guy. Um, so where do you see you taking this vehicle, this EXP vehicle,
Mhm.
and, how do you see that going? I know
Yeah,
it's gonna be fast and fun.
yeah. Well, I kind of want to answer your other question too. You asked, what am I bringing from there to here and not
Oh,
bringing
yes,
all
yes, yes, yes,
that.
we haven't yes, thank you.
One thing I had that, is a bit more challenging is I had to bring this attitude of success at all costs, just like I did, 20 years ago.
Mm,
20 years ago, I was broke. I'm no longer broke. We sold for multi millions. But I had to act like I was broke. And so I behave and work as if I was, and that's been very challenging. I have a coach in my life. He's my pastor. He's helped me through that. He goes, because it's not about money. You still have a story to tell. You still have people to help, and you need more people. The type of people that are going to come into your life now are going to be leveled up, actually.
mhm.
So I brought that same hunger that I had when I was broke to this,
Yeah,
and I've made bold goals like having 1,000 people on my team within 12 months.
yeah.
I was going to do some transactions, and I love Daniel. Daniel goes, "You don't have to do transactions." I said, "Dude, I want to get dirty. I want to be able to look my agents in the eyes and say, I did this.
Yeah,
Calm down. It's not that difficult. Quit acting like it is." What's going to be the most difficult for you to understand is I need you to build something that's going to outlive you. Selling real
yes,
estate is not going to outlive you.
yeah. A
Building an
legacy.
organization, yeah, building an organization will outlive you. I'm proof of that. I sold one for a lot of money, and I still have stock in that company. That's going to make me even way more than what the initial purchase was.
Right.
And so I want that for you. I barely graduated high school. I can't spell. I've done drugs, alcohol. My first marriage lasted 9 months. I'm a jacked up mess, and I know you can have these things in your life,
Mhm.
and it's just getting the right people in your life. And that's what's been my key factor in everything I've done is I just started asking for the right people. I started getting the right people, and that's what set me apart and got me to become successful. So I brought that same, okay, I'm not broke. Paul's not broke no more, and I don't got to worry about the cars getting repossessed, the house foreclosed. However, there's people out there that do. There's a
Yes,
lot of people out there that do, and they don't understand how to build a legacy.
yes.
And I'm fortunate that I came from an industry that built the hierarchy system. We're the creators of the hierarchy, the override, if you will.
Mhm.
And then I found an incredible company with an incredible leader in Glenn Sanford that y'all have a similar. It's a little different, but it's very similar. And what I love about it, Bettina, is I'm recruiting so many real estate agents that don't understand it. They don't understand the hierarchy system. And so I'm like, this is awesome. Because in
Right,
insurance, we all got it. I'm in an
right.
industry now where there's so many people that just don't get it.
Yeah,
And it breaks my heart when I run into people that are 55, 65 years old selling real estate, and they're gonna have to sell real estate till they die.
right. Well,
And
I wanna say something about that hierarchy system, and
yeah,
I think that I kinda wanna hierarchy system, I think that's kind of what historically has happened was like you had corporate, you had regional, you had broker owners, you had the realtors. There was like there was that hierarchy system
Correct. Yeah.
versus like a collaboration where we
Yeah.
all benefit from the collaboration.
Amen. Amen. And so that's what I get to share now, and it's so exciting when people like I love it when I call someone. I say, hey, I'll give them my introduction. I have a 30-second introduction, and I say that, and they'll say, "Oh, you're with EXP. All y'all do is recruit people." I'm like, "Yes, I'm so glad you said that because now I'm about to get really really good. And you just have no idea." It's like when people tell me no when I was gonna. No, I'm not buying an insurance policy tonight. Oh, you shouldn't have said that because this is where I get better. And so it's the same. It's the same with the EXP when they give me the well, y'all are a recruiting company. Thank you for saying that because I wasn't on my game. Now I'm on my game
Well,
because the
we're
best
all
thing,
recruiting companies. If that company
yeah,
is at as of any size whatsoever,
yeah,
it's a recruiting company, like, because nobody makes money if
yeah,
we don't have licensees who go out there and sell transactions. That's kind
yeah,
of that's our job. We just
yeah,
happen to sell more transactions than anybody else out there. That's
yeah.
all.
Yeah,
Um,
and so, but when I get hit with that, I don't even say that. I'm like, "Thank God we're a recruiting company." Let me tell you why. A recruiting company made me rich. I barely graduated high school. So I got to go into my story a little bit. And so it's just it's so much newness over here. It's scary at times because I am going through so many new things. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is gonna keep me young.
right.
I know 54-year-olds like myself that can't do the things I do. This is going to keep me young for another 20 years. I want to run marathons when I'm 95 years old.
It
Uh,
blows me away that you'll run 23 miles and like you're cheerful at the end of 23 miles. I'm going to guess when you first did that, you might not have been as cheerful as you are now.
no, 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 no. I wish we had this was in 2001, so there wasn't camera phones when I ran my first marathon. But I really wish there would have been because I can't even describe what I look like. But no, I was not as cheerful, and sometimes I'm not, depending on the weather. Uh, but,
But
but
it makes me think. It makes me think it's kind of like, the first time you probably built a business, right? You
yeah,
had that hunger and you had that grit in your grind. If you're anything like me, I had that hunger, I had that grit, and I had that grind, but I
yeah,
didn't have that joy, right?
yeah, yeah,
My husband recognized when we first built this business, everybody, we were extremely successful. We were on the stage, we got the accolades, we got the trophies, all the stuff, right?
yeah,
And we got the rankings, but I did I thought I was happy, but not everybody around me was happy being around me,
yeah.
right?
Right.
So I was like, so in hindsight, I don't know that I did that. I did it well, but it could be done better. So
Yeah,
now, as we're hungry and we go back to being hungry, I'm finding the best tip I got, I think, was to gamify everything. Everything that needs to be done,
yeah,
gamify it, make sure it's joyful. Um, don't
yeah,
grit and grind through it. So I always use the analogy, when I don't know if you've actually had to like take out the bearings on a wheel and then you had to like pack the grease in, right?
yes. When
Because
I
if
was
you
really
don't
young
do
on my
that,
bicycle. Yeah,
right. So this is important because I had a trailer where I didn't do that, and the axle got the wheel caught fire
yeah,
because I didn't like go back in and pack the grease and tighten it up like I was supposed to, and I was like, and that's how I lived my lived my life for a hot minute, right? I would just let that thing grind, overheat, and possibly catch what because I wouldn't take time to put in the grease, to
yeah,
put in the joy, to put in the happiness, to do all that and to seal those. I consider like if I the way I envision it, I'm a visual person. Each one of those bearings, right, is a relationship, is
yeah,
a relationship. And I would just kind of grit and grind through it. And everything would just burn up,
yeah,
right? And taking that time to grease those relationships, to just enjoy the process. And it's
yeah,
interesting because Ed Milet on the first, he was talking and he was saying, he was going on and then he stopped because if you know where he's at in his journey right now, he's got some health challenges. So when we go through that, like you're the end of life, he's got end of life motivation, and
Yeah.
he's got a lot of reflection. And his reflection is like, I was incredibly successful, right? I've got all the things to show for it, but I didn't
Yeah.
have fun. I didn't have as
Oh,
much fun as I could have had.
mm,
So,
mm,
as I am just sharing with you, as I'm going through this journey again, right? And
right.
kind of starting similar to you, starting over a little bit
Yeah.
in a different season, I'm very intentionally and purposefully wanting to try to figure out how I'm going to balance the fun and the joy, because I've had the pendulum swing from grit and grind to trips and fun.
Right.
How do I find that middle ground? I'm good at being extreme this way, I'm good at being extreme this way. I don't know that I'm as good at not being extreme, just like
Yeah.
going down the middle road and having that discipline to just enjoy the journey on a
Yeah.
casual, meandering kind of a way.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at now. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I think when you figure out what your definite purpose is, and that's hard to find out, by the way. But when you figure out what your definite purpose is, then you tend to be able to live in the middle a little bit more and not live on each extreme. But you always swing back and forth. I think it's impossible to stay in the middle all the time. But it's just part of the journey. I do know what makes it easier, Bettina, is having a group like y'all are building, having people to
We're
do it
building.
with. Yeah, we're building. Having that group of people that are hungry for life, that are excited, that don't talk about, like I refuse to hang around people that want to tell me how old they are and how everything hurts and all that bull crap. I'm like, I can't put you in my life for too long. Because then I'll start to think that way. I'll start to think, well, geez, I'm that way.
You
Um,
can't, because
so
you're running marathons at 90, like my father-in-law, he's running 5Ks at 90s, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so, I mean, I wanna make sure that I'm careful and mindful of who I put in my life. That's really why I'm fired up about this generation that's coming up, 30
God,
years and younger. My kids are in that generation. They're hungry,
they're
they're not
amazing.
lazy like everybody's saying they are, and so that'll keep us young right there, hanging out with them.
Do you know what the
Um,
key I found? And tell me if this isn't true, because they don't have the baggage that gets them to say you like you share like this tip that you learned,
yeah.
or somebody else learned that was given that would help them. It's just a little toot, a little switch. They don't say, "Yeah, but."
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Sure.
that might work for them, but that won't work for me because of blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. They
Right.
don't do the yeah, buts. And what we've discovered is a lot of these the ones that are younger have the energy, the energy power, the willpower, all the powers.
Yeah.
They don't have the baggage that gets them to say, "Yeah, but."
Right. It's like what you and I talked about last time about second marriages. They fail more than first time marriages because the person takes their first marriage into their second marriage and they think something's going to fix. They're yeah butting. Well, yeah, but it worked this way. Well, remember the first one was a failure. Why are we even comparing to that, right? You got to
Right.
that thing's gone. Throw it away. It's
Let it
history.
go.
If you want your second marriage to last, you can't put on your new spouse what you went through with your first.
Right.
And so it's the same thing. It's yeah. So when you get these younger, and then sometimes you find people that are in their 50s that they just want to do something crazy. Tell me more, and they don't. Yeah, but the chances are, it's not.
Right.
But
I think it's also a mental mindset. It's a type of
oh yeah,
person. Yeah,
yeah,
but that get into the yeah, buts. And we can, and it's funny because if you are a yeah, but person, we know that you can make a decision and decide that you won't be a yeah, but person. It's a decision. It's like you can quit smoking. You decide to not smoke.
right,
And what's great is now in the generation when we were youngers, like I felt like everybody smoked. When we travel, my kids
right.
are like, "What is that smell?" And I was like, "That's my childhood," right? And,
Oh
but
man,
we
yeah,
know
my kid.
now that we can
Yeah,
actually change some really deep, dark habits.
yeah.
And it's very possible. I'm super stoked. I wanna say thank you for your time.
Thank
Is
you.
there what other questions did we not answer yet that I want to make sure that we answer, that we talk?
I think we missed a few, but, I think we covered enough that we probably answered them somehow, some way. I think, I love being part of a team. I love every part of it. It's just the most gratifying, rewarding thing in the world. This morning to wake up and know that I was gonna talk to you, another team member that wanted to talk to me. It gives it builds us up so strong. 3D Coach is a great book, and it's a book written by a college coach about a college coach, and he said, "Hey, listen." He took his new players onto the middle of the field on the 50-yard line late at night. He pointed up the scoreboard and he said, "Hey, we're going to be judged every Saturday by that scoreboard, but how I'm going to judge you is how you treat everybody in this locker room. The way y'all treat each other is more important than what I'll ever see up on that scoreboard. Keep in mind, these guys won several championships." And the better we can treat each other and build each other up, I'm telling you, the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
There's so I've watched it, I've witnessed it happen in other organizations.
yeah,
I watched it happen with companies that weren't my company. I've seen it, and then I've seen destruction happen of people tearing each other down and apart. And I think the great thing that you and I are in, Bettina, right now is we have a leader in Glenn Sanford who is not a glory hog. He doesn't beg for, let me do all the talking and all the teaching, all the coaching. He, I've watched him, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and meet with him and talk with him, but I will one day.
he's
And
nice.
I've seen him build his leaders up and
Yeah,
say, they're the ones running the company
yeah,
and they're the ones that need to speak. And that says a lot. I went to an event in Dallas that you had put on, you and Daniel and some other folks. And Glenn sat on the front row the whole time. He maybe talked for 10 minutes. And when he was up there talking, Bettina, he took a leader with him, you
yeah.
know? So we got the leader for all of us to thrive in an atmosphere where we can say, hey, the scoreboard's important, yes, but how are we going to treat each other? Because if we can, there's somebody that's on their hands and knees begging for someone to say, hey, you belong here, and they're radically going to change their family history, their family tree, because someone in this team said you belong here.
Yes.
And that's the environment we have, and I'm so grateful that I found you guys. Thank you, God.
Well, I was
And
like, it wasn't that I want you to know, it wasn't that I was willing to visit with you today. It was that I was excited to visit with you today.
yeah, thank you.
Like truly excited. And I do truly believe that we are all just getting started. There's so many great people that we can visit with. There are
Sure.
folks, what I'm excited about is that we have a world we have this ecosystem where people can build their vision, their legacy, their business bigger than what you and I want to do. Cuz
Amen.
like that's what's so great. Somebody's 20 years old, if they want to choose to build bigger and greater, and we can we can help them get started. And there's a world and an ecosystem here
Yeah.
where we'll introduce them just like we've been introduced within our ecosystem, within the locker room, within this club of EXP, where they can level up to whatever level they have because we're all collaborating, we're all working together, we're all supporting one another. And
Yes.
we have a world in EXP that's bigger than us.
Amen.
I'm
Amen.
excited. All right. Well,
Thanks.
thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you.
I think that's a wrap.
All right. Thank you so much.